reaching the milestone of 59 years. It is a good thing in Nigeria when you are able to cross 45, because the life expectancy for the average male in Nigeria is about 45. But here we are today because your life has been defined by service and philanthropy. Nigeria is reputed to have about 11 or so million out-of-school children. If not for individuals such as His Excellency, perhaps the number would be about 14 million plus. Through your gesture over the years, you have given hope to thousands that has transmitted to millions of children that ordinarily would have been nobodies, that would have been roaming the streets to become bandits, terrorists, and those who will not allow us to sleep at night. It is in recognition of your service to humanity, your unbridled philanthropy, that we are persuaded at the NUJ FCT to honor you today with the icon of service and philanthropy, to set it as a marker for other Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians, to take an example of what you represent and give hope to a generation of children that ordinarily would be hopeless. Well, today it's about you, Your Excellency. It's not for speech making. But let me also thank my colleagues that are here in their hundreds. This isn't just the hall. We have a second and larger hall where our colleagues are watching on NTA Live. So I want to thank you for this support. And it is our hope that after this, Nigerians will better understand the essence of the man, Senator Rochas Okorocha. In all we say, to God be the glory. Thank you very much.
Da Danji kan Sokoto, Maga Alherin Hausa, Amen Kano, Okala of Eche, Garkuwa Almajiri, Omaradun of Yorubaland, Jagaban Lafia, Okala of Eche and Owele Indigbo, President of the Rochas Foundation, former Governor of Imo State, Senator representing Imo West, and Chairman Senate Committee on Culture and Tourism, the citizen of humanity. His Excellency, the distinguished Senator Rochas Okorocha, the awardee. Come forward, sir.
Thank you. I looked at your faces and I saw the acceptance and genuine from your heart. I felt not only mesmerized or tantalized, I felt flabbergasted. So I will ever remain grateful for this award. And I dedicate this award to millions of indigent children in our country and Africa at large, who are struggling to get access to basic education. Again, to God be the glory. I'm here with you, so privileged, given my history and where I'm coming from. I'm here addressing great men and women of the press because chance called on me. And despite my humble background, I was able to access education. Which means, if that chance never called, I'm sure I would have been one of these boys in the streets seeking for survival. So for me, it's a rare privilege, an honor that God has made it possible for me to be in your midst this day. But I appreciate your word, and I thank you for your word. When I got the letter from this team, I had mixed feelings. One, I was so excited. I'm talking to Nigerian press, and they're celebrating me at 59. And this kickstarts my birthday, which comes up on the 22nd, with a celebration on the 30th. So coming from journalists that there couldn't have been any relationship ab initio, it got me a bit jittery. So I had mixed feelings. One, maybe I deserve this honor. Maybe the prayers of these thousands of children has touched their heart. Yeah. Secondly, I was also scared because coming to you to take questions might also be a ploy to take a pound of flesh on me. So I wanted to shred my fear in the veil of silence by asking you to have quietly given me my word in my office. This is the beginning of the political wisdom. But all the same, I've accepted your invitation, and I'm here before you. And I'm ready for your questions, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If only this can make our nation great and can move this nation forward. I love Nigeria. And Nigeria is my country. And my love for Nigeria is deeply rooted in my spiritual conviction that God has allotted this space on earth to me as a citizen. And I will do everything I can to defend its integrity and promote its unity. So I'm a Nigerian, and if reincarnation is to come back, I'm proud to come back to this country as a Nigerian. This is my state of mind, so you can know where I'm coming from and where I have my concerns. But having said so, the question I asked today, my country, what is happening? And I think this is why you have called me, that we may all have a discussion. What is happening in my country? Why are we not where we're supposed to be? Why is there so much anger? Why is there so much pains and poverty in a land so blessed by God? I quickly trace a bit of our historical background, starting from the time of amalgamation 104 years ago, when the British colonial masters hurriedly, quickly, for their business enterprise, came together, brought strange people of culture and tradition, background, religion, and merged us together in the name of amalgamation. They did not do that for purpose of love for our country. They did that to promote their business enterprise. If you recall, the name of our country before was Royal Niger Company. Before they found that it's not fit for a name of a nation, before they changed it to Nigeria. So Nigeria is really a hurried arrangement by the colonial masters to give them a business opportunity and make returns to London. And the interesting thing is that it was Lord Lugard's wife that gave us the name Nigeria. And those of you must have read the story of Lord Lugard and how he broke up with his wife then, and was feeling frustrated. He was sent to Nigeria to ease off. And that's who gave us the name Nigeria. And since then, we have been managing each other as a nation, speaking divergent views, divergent opinions out today's politics and way of life. So we're together, but we're not together. But the issue was we're one of the few countries in the world who got independence on the platter of gold. In other words, in our quest for freedom without freedom. we took over administration from the colonial masters without direction. That became the pen. I say so because I want you to understand where the problem all started and where there's so much confusion in our country. And when our founding fathers noticed that, on the 28th of May, they quickly constructed a coat of arms and a flag, trying to give us a sense of nationhood and a sense of identity. When they carved that coat of arms, they had four major things. The motto of that coat of arms is peace, unity and peace. Unity and faith, peace and progress. Because they understood that unity was our problem. That we wouldn't have the faith in this country called Nigeria, and there couldn't have been peace, and there couldn't have been any progress in the land. That was how we came up with the first national anthem. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That's our nation. And shortly after that, they gave us two white horses, saying that represents our dignity and pride as a people because of the fight against colonialism. Then they gave us the black shade, which is the fertility of our land. By the way, they understood that agriculture is the best way to go before the advent of oil. That's why in Nigeria, if you go to rural areas, you see that the old roof has grasses on them, which means our soil is not only fertile, even the atmosphere is fertile. This is a great nation we have. So, now, but all that put together could not have helped. Right from the time of Tafawa Balewa to the time present-day government, it's been the same story. It's been the same story of poverty, confusion, lack, disagreement, and pains all over the place. But then, our country, here we are. But my question is, where then lies our greatness? What is really the problem? What can we do to get to where we're supposed to be? Must we remain like this and become a laughing stock? Are we going to continue these criticisms, endless criticisms, counter-accusations? I do not know of any government that has come in this country have not received its own share of abuses. From one president to the next president, it's been insult and abuses, anger, but yet we refuse to separate. I say so because if we do not act quickly under the present situation, which our ugly condition points out to us, we shall be destroying the psyche of the generation of Nigerians yet unborn. This is my question. But let me tell you what makes for a great country. In terms of population, we are the giant of Africa. 200 and something million people still counting. This is Nigeria for you. In terms of fame, we are very famous people. There's no 4 black person you see in the world that one is not a Nigerian. In terms of extent of territory, we're the largest, 900 and something square miles. Arable land. Our soldiers are the best. Our scientists are the best. Our doctors in Dubai and in America control the affairs of health in those countries. But why are we still not great? That's what I want to share with you now, the great men of the journalists. That's my question. So it is true that a country might be strong, a country might have soldiers, armed forces, might have energetic use, would have extent of land, gold, minerals, oil, but yet they are not great. Where then lies the greatness of a country? Our real challenge, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to share this for the first time, so you understand what I think personally as Rochas is the problem of Nigeria. Because we have had people speak on this issue without addressing what can be done or proper solutions. I'm here today to create this thought-provoking speech that all of you may understand my feelings about this nation, which I bleed, my heart bleeds every day. The challenge we have is that the aftermath of the colonial masters, brought for us 3 categories of citizens. One is what I call the Iberberized citizens, arising from Iberberism. The second are the tribal citizens. And the third are the patriotic citizens. While the Iberberized citizens, or what we call non-citizens of a country, are the selfish people who have this I don't care attitude about their nation. And these people are more in number. They are over 70% in our country. Then there are journalists, there are doctors, there are politicians, there are lawyers. This group of people are so many, and they draw the nation down. All they do is they complain every day, but they add nothing to solution. The second group of people is the one they call the tribesmen. The tribesmen are those you find in the political class who talk nothing but their religion or their tribe where they come from. And they talk about Nigeria. This is why you see the call of some politicians saying, let's say Yorubas go, let Igbos go, let the Hausas go, let's Fulani go. Anybody speaking in that language is a tribesman. He's not a true citizen. He's called a partial citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then, but we have very few, 5% of the group, which is called the patriotic Nigerians, the true citizens. And that's why most of the people in politics are tribesmen and not patriotic citizens. Because they use their tribal sentiments to win election, to govern the people and put them into perpetual poverty. This is a problem of our country. And this is why most people have been thinking, what is wrong with our nation? There's nothing wrong with our nation. What is wrong with our nation is the management of resources of our nation and lack of patriotic citizens who think more of their country than themselves. Those who think for what they can give to their country and not what their country can give to them. And those who also are willing to make sacrifices for the well-being of others. Those who think outside the cubicle of their ethnicity. That is why, to do this, gentlemen, what can we do? We have to quickly develop what I call the national spirit, which is what is lacking in our nation. National spirit is that spirit that prizes glory more than wealth and honor dearer than life. It's the inspiring spirit of heroes, which is lacking in this country. That's what I mean by national spirit. And let me define national spirit for you, so you can understand. National spirit is that high spirit. It's called high spirit because it's elevated above low and vulgar consideration. It is a haughty spirit. This haughty spirit despises little and mean things, both in character, counsel, and conduct. It does not talk about these many little things that we'll consider. It is a general spirit. It protects the indigent and the weak in the society. And it is also a noble spirit that dreads shame and dishonor as the greatest evil of mankind. This is the spirit we're talking about. And this spirit is lacking because we don't have many people as patriotic Nigerians. We have what is called the selfish and the tribesmen. If this spirit is in a nation, that nation, no matter how strong, no matter what form or shape, will begin to make progress, command the commerce of other countries, and there will be development in the land. Until this spirit is in us. Even if you call for national conference and call for whatever form of government, some say central government, it will never work until this spirit is in us. How do we get this spirit? We must will, and to will, we must develop the judicial arm of government. The judiciary must be made independent and strong and powerful to be able to compel the Beriberi citizens to move up to tribal, and tribal to move up to patriotism, and gradually we'll have more people in the patriotic citizen than we have in the Beriberi citizens. But having said that, because I'm ready for your questions, let me prophesy. And I'm not a pastor, but I can prophesy that I see possible great thing to come in our new Nigeria. I see a united and prosperous nation, not a poverty-driven and terrorist country. I see the giant of Africa and giant of the black world, not the poverty capital of the world. I see a strong economy and not a weak economy. I see dollar again coming back 1-to-1 as it used to be many years. It is possible. But if only we can will. I see our flag, green, white, green, traveling over America, Russia, China, commanding the commerce of those nations. And I see our youth again, not in the Boko Haram arrangement, but or anywhere, but I see them hitting their chest, dressed in suits, walking well on tradition, and say, I'm a Nigerian. And I see our elders, those alive, coming together on a round table and repeat the same old national anthem, which says, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. God bless you. It's more of misinformation. If you recall at the time that the EFCC said they found 5.7 billion in my account, I screamed. I said, why is the 5.7 billion? Give it to me, I'll go look at it. But there was nothing like that. It was just misinformation that does not reflect any practical realities. And I've also informed the EFCC at that point. I said, please show me the 57. If I see 57 billion, at least, if I think 10% of it now will go okay for me. But there's nothing like that. But you know, EFCC will do their job based on the petition they get. And petition writers are so many in this country, especially in the southern part of the country. In Imo State, there's a street for petition writing. Once you go there, you describe the person, you never met the person that is tall, is fat, is short. What does he do? You tell him, you will start writing petition that fits the person and submit. Jama is a street, thank you. It exists. So, and where I come from, we have this common PhD pulling down. And so, those things are not true. But I want to wait that day that anybody in this country can prove to Rochas that Rochas stole this amount of money, or did this, or did that. As a governor, when I was a governor, I sacrificed my security vote. The most government is still owing me. If I have to go by my 250 million a month, I have 8 billion now for me, not politics. I was Rochas before becoming a governor. And the projects I've done in Imo State, this is public television, and I've challenged everybody. I said, please, for God's sake, if in the history of that state, anybody can say with this my record, I deserve from politics. I've used every word to challenge everybody. Nobody will come. But you know, I'm not very good at propaganda. So this is a question. And even the people that speak about me, put all that they will do for the next 20 years cannot equal to what I've done. How can somebody be corrupt in the state when you build 546 schools? How can somebody be corrupt with 30 hospitals? How can you be corrupt with the best high courts, prison headquarters, the best, one of the best, the police headquarters, over 1,000 kilometers of road? I've said this publicly, and I need to be challenged, but nobody can challenge you.
Yeah, sir, very, very well said. But I would want to also ask you, not as challenge, but for you just to put the record straight. You did these things.
None of you must expect for which there's no project from it. That's number one. Number two, I will say to you that when people say something is substandard, when I started doing some road, of course, social media, they said I was building China road. Thank God it's China road, because China has some of the best roads that they're doing around. But if I do China road, means I will do the regional. So all those things are, when you see someone that looks doing well, if you don't say what you say, see. What they are saying, I'll see you. But this is not the story of the common man or the other citizen who felt the impact of my government. So it is not, again, it is not true. And those projects there are all standing. I'll just say to you now, the International Airport we built is the vice president, maybe he's listening to me right now, and the fan DG, I'm sure he's listening, said to me, there's no such international cargo airport shares in the country than this one. Now, they just so put a court of bill, you can't compare to it. So I have over 1,000 projects. And anytime we have time, I can show you a bit of them, everything. So it's not true. Those are political gimmicks. And you know what I don't do? I don't believe in commissioning projects. That's what we see. I can't go and commission a 1 kilometer road. I can't even commission a water. I can't commission anything. I don't commission because I believe that the money you use to commission a project, 100 million, you can use it to put a portable drinking water again in the toilet. That's my only control. So it is not true. And let me tell you what's happening to you now. And I'm sure everybody can ask this question. Do you know since I left in the state government, no single project has been built by any of my predecessors unless maintain what I've already built. And I stand to be questioned. Even the ESCO chamber that was commissioned by President Mohamed Buhari, I built it. Are you sure? It was innovative. The road in question we talked about, I started that road and did it. I opened up Owerri. I opened up the Taiwo State. And I was not doing that for critical appreciation of words. I was just doing that to leave a record in the sign of time. And I made a change. They can run this country as business. And that's what we did now. Yes, to the frog, to China and to Dubai that we started with 20 years ago. But for me, it's Rochas Okorocha. What I want to run for president. I won't be run for president, but I ran for president. I've run for president of Nigeria 3 times. Okay? If one of them I ran with President of the Service Peace, I came second. I've been running for president. And I have certificates for running for president. Now, but what Nigerians don't understand about me, that's why I do a life for me. I don't have ambition to be president. I have vision to be president. And it's this vision that is driving me crazy. Because I see the possibility of creating a new Nigeria. But when you say ambition, because if you look at ambition, I don't have the political connectivity now to be president. I don't even know how my party is feeling. So that's not, but the vision is what drives me. That's where I differ from most of these aspirations. And I think we have people with vision talking about affairs of state or nation who are not starters. Have I answered your question?
No, not exactly, sir.
Okay, that's good.
I will want, our audience will want a categorical statement as to whether you will run.
What I will run?
Yes.
That is running like a race.
Run for 2020.
You see, when you ask the question, I've told that I've run for election 3 times. Has that answered your question? Okay. Now, even if I want to run for election and I want to declare, it will not be here. It will be a national big thing. Rochas declared before Abuja branch of NUJ. Where are my party members here? Where are the leaders of thoughts? If I'm coming for declaration, so wait. I'm going to war. But I have no justifiable reason for APC to zone presidency away from the south, so to say, not the southeast. Because there's been this culture of rotation, unwritten, but what's called a mutual understanding. Power went first to southwest. It was President Obasanjo. Then he came back to the north. It was Yar'Adua. Then he went back to the south. It was President Jonathan. Then he came back to north. He would have been Mr. President. I think it is just fair. In what is called fair, understanding. It is not the right. Equity, justice, or whatever. That this understanding is not broken. That power should go to the south. And I agree with the southern governments. They are absolutely right. That will entrench this. Because if you say no, APC is zoned back to the north, then that will polarize the party. It will sound like it is another people's party. It will no longer be a Nigerian party. Some of us knew what we suffered as APC member. When I moved Africa to APC, I know the names I was called because I believe that Igbos should be the mainstream of Nigerian politics. And after coming to the mainstream of Nigerian politics, they should not be deserted. You know, your freedom of speech or your freedom must stop where another person's freedom begins. But if your freedom overrides somebody's freedom, then it is not the best. There's nothing like absolute freedom in life, because if you have absolute freedom, then you can kill somebody. That's your freedom where you're happy. So, issue of ban on Twitter, we raised that at the National Assembly, and we're talking about even the social media, start with social media. But do you know, if you listen, I don't know what some of you have said social media about me. Somebody came to me and was surprised. Are you Rochas? In fact, it was yesterday. I said, we thought you are one kind of aggressive, but it's not true. So the social media paints you, they tell all kinds of lies, and you have no right of, if you reply, people like to get negativity. Whatever we can do in this country to streamline social media negative stories, the better it is for us as a nation.
What's your...
My position on open grace is straight repellent is. The law is even in the federal law. Federal road safety law says that you cannot rear cattle 50 meters from the road, and the transportation of cattle must be, or animals must be in a truck cage. But that's not even my problem. Do you know what I have against open grazing? Is what is called child right abuse. What do you call it? Child right abuse. Child abuse. That a little boy, a little flabby boy of 15 years, 12 years, is made to trek from Sokoto to Port Harcourt. That one is enough offense itself to start with. And that's inhuman, as far as I'm concerned. In this modern age, it's wrong. But what Nigerians don't see is the business in the country. You know, I don't see the open ranch or closed ranch, whatever. I see the business. That if this cattle business is well managed, it will support our foreign. We don't look at it, we all look at it. This is politics at play. This is all politics at play. We're not addressing the main issue, we're taking the political side of open grazing and non-open grazing. But the point I'm making is, we should turn these cattle into a proper business. It will help
progressive governors. Somebody is asking, so would you advise the...
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.